Well, good morning, Plum Creek. Hey, I'm glad to see you today. Thanks for being here. We've got a special morning in store for you. I'll talk a little bit more about that here momentarily. But before we jump into today's service, I just wanted to remind you about Father's Day. So that's coming up next Sunday, and we would love to pack the house. Just with all kinds of people, especially dads. And so we wanted to celebrate fathers. What do guys like more than competition, right? So we've got an accuracy shooting competition, shooting things too, right? So we got some paintball target ranges and things set up. And whichever dad wins that accuracy competition is going to win a $250 gift card to Full Throttle Adrenaline Park. Our thinking is, whoever wins gets to take their whole family out for a fun afternoon. So we want to encourage you to come and join us for that, but also dads especially. You know how hard it can be to be a dad, I'm sure, without support, but with support of your church family. It's like there are some times and some things that we just can't do on our own. So this would be a great opportunity for you to invite the dads that you know at work or your neighbors or your friends. And we gave you the ability to do that in your bulletin. There's an invite card. There's also some extra ones out on the table, so feel free to take those and spread them out. We'd love to have you join us here next Sunday. So now about this Sunday, like I said, you're in for kind of a special treat. If you're joining us new, this is a very different experience from what you would typically experience. But I've asked for my friend Matthew Douglas Simpson, I know him as Matty, I've known him for a long time, to come and join us. I'm gonna get his microphone over here for him. And so he's going to join us, and he's a storyteller and a songwriter. We've been on staff at church before together and known each other since high school. And so just a good friend of mine, one of the most honest and genuine people that I've ever been able to know, great storyteller. And I'm just going to let him take over and share the story of what God has done and is doing in his life. So if you would please welcome with me my good friend, Matty Simpson.
How we doing, folks? Good. Well, like you said, my name is Matthew Douglas Simpson. I am from Cynthiana, Kentucky. Anybody know where that's at? Any Cynthiana folks here? All right, we had one last service. They said, woohoo. Made me feel right at home. But I am, for the last, I guess, 7 months, I have been just a full-time musician, which is not normal for me. I spent the last 24 years of my life in traditional church ministry, so this is a little bit of a change for me. But my whole life, I've always loved a couple things. I've always loved a good story. I've always loved a good song. And even from when I was a little kid, I remember writing really terrible songs and melodies, and I like recorded them on cassette tapes and all that good stuff. They're horrible. And but one time I was at my sister's house. I was a little kid. I'm playing Hot Wheels cars on the couch, and I had these two cars, and in my mind they were going to have a car accident. I was making up some kind of crazy story imagination in my head, right? And they had these two cars, and I'm smashing them together just over and over and over again because I'm trying to make them look like they've actually been in an accident. And somebody asked my sister, they were like, why is he just like smashing those cars together? And it was the first time, like looking back on it now that I think about that story, it was the first time in my life I really felt seen by my sister. She really knows me. She said, well, it wouldn't match the story in his head if they didn't look like they were in a wreck. Because my dad, he was a body work guy, he was a mechanic, and he loved to paint cars. So my whole life I was around cars that were all beat up, and somehow my dad made them look brand new, right? So for me, I was like, these cars are wrecked. They're supposed to be wrecked. That brings me to my dad. My dad was what was known as a junk man. Anybody know what that is? Yeah, the ladies are all like, yes, we know. We're married to one. But that basically means my dad would find some car at a junkyard that needed way more work than anybody could possibly imagine. It was usually 11 shades of green. And he would park it in my mom's driveway for 6 months and embarrass the heck out of her, right? But my dad, he didn't see that car in the junkyard the same way everybody else did. Everybody else saw junk. My dad saw art. And I watched him do it over and over and over again when I was a kid. He'd bring this horrible looking car home, park it in the driveway, embarrass my mom. And then over the next year, he would transform that thing into one of the fastest, most beautiful looking vehicles you'd ever see. One day he brought home a 1962 Pontiac Grand Prix and parked it in the driveway. 11 shades of green, I still remember it. And it was loud, it didn't have a muffler. Somehow made it home. It probably wasn't even legal to drive on the road at this point. No hubcaps, no gas cap. He had a shop rag stuck in the gas tank. And over the next 6 months, he turned that thing into the most beautiful candy apple red car you could ever possibly want. My sister did the upholstery in it. It was tuck and roll, candy stripe material. It was beautiful. And it was the last car he worked on before he died. And that car kind of became a testament to who my dad was. I was 9 years old when my dad passed away. And it wasn't until I was older and I could look back, and we still have that car. It's still in our family. It's like our most prized possession. We won't ever get rid of it. But we look back at that car and it reminds us who my dad really was. My dad wanted to restore things. He wanted to make things that were broken, that didn't work, that everybody else had written off and left for dead. He wanted to bring that back to life because for whatever reason, it reminded him of a time that he loved. He was very nostalgic, just like me. I think as a songwriter, I get that from my dad. And he would make beautiful works of art out of these yard cars that he would find. But now that I'm older and I'm looking back and I've had the time to get to know people that knew my dad, I don't have a ton of memories with my dad. 9 years is not a long time, especially when you're a kid. It all fades together and you remember what you remember and you hold on to it as much as you can. But there's not a lot. But that was one that I always remembered. But another thing, looking back, one of my favorite things in the world to do, I told you I love stories. I think the reason I love a good story is because anytime I would go to the shop, there'd be 5 or 6 guys standing around listening to music, telling the most hilarious stories you'd ever want to hear. And they were all, pretty rough around the edges. And now that I'm older and I've gotten to know some of those guys on a different level, I realize they all came from a place where my dad saw them and said, nobody else is going to give them an opportunity. So I'll give them whatever knowledge I have. And I'll teach them how to work on cars, and I'll teach them how to paint cars, and I'll love on them, and I'll tell them about Jesus. And those people showed up to church every Sunday, and they came to church with us. And that was the way my dad did ministry. He just passed down what he knew to somebody else. What little bit of creativity that he had, he gave to somebody else. And his story became a part of theirs, and some of their stories became a part of mine. And maybe some of your stories will become a part of mine as well. But I wrote this song about my dad's car, and it's just really a tribute to him and who he was. He loved Jesus, he loved cars, and he showed it every day of his life. And all the stories that I've heard, I still meet people that knew my dad that I'd never met before. Like just last year, I met a couple people that were like, I knew your dad, and they told me the most wonderful stories about what, things that he had done for them. Everybody always says this about my dad. He had a heart of gold. So I wrote this song for him, and it's just about his car. I got to drive it for the first time during COVID. We got it working and running again and on the road. And it was surreal being in the front seat because I was always watching him drive from the back seat. This song's called Grand Prix. I hope you like it. was in 1962 with tuck and roll seats. Flying down that highway, that Pontiac was mean. The gasoline smelled so good. Didn't have a care in this world. He'd say, let's go for a ride. I'd smile and climb inside. We'd take to the streets like a candy apple street. I'll never forget that rumbling sound, or the feelings I felt when the hammer was down. Yeah, we were living it up with the windows rolled down, in the backseat singing. We were born in a small town, nowhere to go, no place to be. We were young and free, Daddy's Grand Prix. And I remember sitting on Daddy's lap, my hands on the wheel, his foot on the gas. The summer days stretched on forever. I never thought they'd end, no, not ever. Yeah, we were living it up with the windows rolled down, in the backseat singing. We were born in a small town, nowhere to go, no place to be. We were young and free, Daddy's Grand Prix. Yeah, we were living it up with the windows rolled down, in the backseat singing. We were born in a small town, nowhere to go, no place to be. We were young and free. Yeah, we were living it up with the windows rolled down, in the backseat singing. We were born in a small town, nowhere to go, no place to be. We were young and free, Daddy's Grand Prix, Daddy's Grand Prix, Daddy's Grand Prix. Yeah. So I was 9 years old when my dad passed away. Whole life changed in a blink. I'm at school. I was in elementary school at the time, and I think fourth grade. Got brought out of school at around noon, which I thought was weird, but at the same time, I was like, sweet, we're out of school for the rest of the day. But that night, I found out that my dad passed away, and whole world upside down in a blink. My mom, she didn't have a driver's license. She got her driver's license at 42. She had to scramble to figure things out. Dad died suddenly. He had a massive heart attack at 51. And literally, my whole family circle, we all just shifted into figure it out mode. And so that meant my mom, pretty much, who didn't work, didn't have a driver's license because she was just a stay-at-home mom, all of a sudden had to learn how to drive, had to go get a job, and that job turned into 2 jobs and sometimes 3 jobs to keep the lights on and keep the family fed. And so that meant if I wanted anything, I was going to have to work for it. I became the man of the house at 9 years old. And when you're a kid, there's not a whole lot of options out there. When you're finally wanting to buy things for yourself. I think the first time I asked for something expensive, I was around 11. And Mom was like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm trying to keep the lights on. So I learned pretty quick, 11-year-old, about all you can do is go mow yards, right? So I did that for a while and went around to neighbors and mowed their yards and weed eated. And then when I was like 13, there was a guy down the road that was like, why don't you come help us in tobacco? And if I had known then what I know now, I would have said no. Anybody here working tobacco? Yeah. You want to do it again? No. Yeah. Love the smell, though. But that made me a lot more money than mowing yards at the time. That was in Cynthiana, where I'm from. That was kind of the cash crop. You saw tobacco everywhere. So I got a lot of work doing it because everybody needed help. And, you know, even when you're a little kid, they'll find something for you to do. It's all hands on deck. They're just trying to get the season, you know, done as quick as they can get it done and with as much help as they can. And we all chipped in. But it was probably how I paid for the first guitar I ever bought for myself, I paid for with tobacco money. I think the first car I ever bought, it was horrible. It was a 1989 Volvo. And it would, if it got under a half a tank, it would just like start sputtering and stop. So you couldn't ever you always had to have it full. I paid $500 for it. I had it for like 6 months before it finally decided it wasn't going to run at all. But tobacco, the work was not fun. I didn't enjoy that really at all. But the thing I loved was sitting in the stripping room. And again, I love stories. I love songs. We'd sit in the stripping room and we'd listen to cassette tapes. And I'd just listen to all those farmer guys tell their stories. And when they were all going through the hardest things in life, that's when the funniest stories were told, because they were all like, we got to get through whatever we're going through, right? That was a way they got through really hard things. Humor and good songs and all that good stuff. So from a young age, it just connected with me on a very deep level. So I wrote this song. It's called Tobacco Town. It's really just a love song to my hometown, but it's also a love/hate affair with working in tobacco. Hope you love it. Dropping them sticks in the dog day heat. Cynthiana's best rolled up in my sleep. Too behind to quit, too hot to eat. Have no fear in the high boy seat. It's been 3 weeks since we topped them spikes. Pinched off the suckers and sharpened our knives. Cutting down the dusk till these hands are brown. 10 cents a stalk to lay that burley down. And we'd break our backs for the ones that we love, and we work too hard, live too fast, burn through the summer like a shot from a glass. 13 months a year, that's where I'm found, in that tobacco town, in that tobacco town. Hang it in the barn till the shag's all cured. 4 tiers high and 20 stick wide. Strip off the stalks, ridge tips and flyings. This old haggard cassette still works just fine. And we'd break our backs for the ones that we love, and we work too hard, live too fast, burn through the summer like a shot from a blast. 13 months a year, that's where I'm found. Yeah, we work too hard, live too fast, burn through the summer like a shot from a blast. There should be a guitar solo there. Yeah, we work too hard, live too fast, burn through the summer like a shot from a glass. 13 months a year, that's where I'm found. Yeah, we work too hard, live too fast, burn through the summer like a shot from a glass. When I die, they lay me in the ground. And that's the back of town. And that's the back of town. I think my mom was a saint. She had to put up with a lot after my dad passed away. I had a really bad anger problem through all that, trying to get through that part of my life. And she did everything she could to try to help it along, right? She knew that it was a part of the grief cycle. She understood that. She experienced grief as well, and she was going through it herself. So she allowed me to feel what I needed to feel, but at the same time, she was trying to help me through it. I remember, being so mad and punching holes in the wall and things like that. So what did she do? She got a hay bale and she put it out in our yard, and she told me I could go out there and kick it and punch it if I want to. Then she got me karate lessons and then boxing lessons and all that good stuff. And that was actually very helpful. You can't be angry when somebody's trying to punch you in the face, because they win every time. You got to learn to think things through. You got to learn to, when you get mad, put that stuff where it needs to go so you can get back where you need to be. So she didn't really know what she was doing, but she did a great job. And but she was always the glue in our family, right? If you know what I'm talking about, you probably do. There's always somebody in your family that makes sure we all get together, that makes sure everybody's eating good, that makes sure everybody has what they need and are taken care of, and she's always calling and checking on folks. That was my mom. And she literally got a job at every school that I went to all through my years of school, just so she could keep an eye on me. Looking back on it, I didn't notice it, but now I'm like, she was totally just keeping tabs on me the whole time. So I never got away with anything. I tried, but Mom knew everybody, and she saw it all. But like I said, she was a saint. But not just because of what she did for me, but it was because of what she did for others. I remember one time, I didn't tell this story in the first service, so you guys are lucky. I don't actually tell stories the same way every time anyway. But I was in the pantry, and I had there was something I think it was during the 97 flood. You remember that? And I'm standing in the pantry, and Mom's like, we need to find some stuff to give to the people that need food, right? There's some people downtown that lost everything. We're going to get food together. And I start going through the pantry, and I've got a box, and I'm putting all the junk that I don't want in there. All the stuff I hate, I'm putting in this box. And Mom was just taking it out, putting it on the counter, and she was trying to be really patient. And finally, I was like, why are you doing that? And she said, we don't want people to have our worst. We want people to have our best. And she started taking all the name brand things out. Granted, my mom was working 2 jobs at the time, and I'm going, Kraft mac and cheese is like, it might as well be filet mignon. And we're giving this away. But I was young and I didn't understand at the time that Mom knew that people were more important. Relationships were more important than anything else. She knew that care for others and kindness for others was more rewarding than any bowl of mac and cheese would ever be. My mom would take in strays, man. I had a lot of friends. I have a way of attracting people who are rough around the edges. I like storytellers. I never smoked a day in my life. Guess who I hang out with everywhere I go? The smokers. They tell the best stories. Even when I was a little kid, I was always around whatever wild people were around. I gravitated towards them, and for whatever reason in my life now, they gravitate towards me, which is a great thing in ministry because you get to share Jesus that way. And my mom, she would bring in strays. She brought in I had a best friend growing up. We were best friends since 6th grade. He ran away from home when I was in 11th grade, and he stayed on our couch for 2.5 years. My mom taught him to drive, helped him get his first job, called his mom every day to let her know that he was okay. That's the kind of person my mom was. I never heard her make a rude remark to anybody. She was never sarcastic. She was never mean to anybody. She never made jokes at anybody else's expense, except for one time. We were in Lexington and we were at Burger King. My mom loves Burger King, all right? Cynthia Anna only had like 14 pizza places and a McDonald's, right? I think we have a Hardee's too. So when we would go to Lexington, I'd be like, sweet, we're going to go eat somewhere really awesome because Lexington has all these options, and then Mom wants to go to Burger King. So one night we go through the drive-thru in Lexington. She had a doctor's appointment or something, and we go through the drive-thru. We get to the box, and he goes, "Ma'am, what would you like to eat?" And she says, "I want a Whopper meal." And that guy said, "Ma'am, I'm so sorry. We're out of hamburger." My mom, never mean to a soul, never sarcastic, in her hangriness, says, "Well, what are you the king of today?" That was the funniest thing to this day that I ever heard my mom say. She passed away in my early 20s, right when I thought things were getting figured out again. And again, life upside down. All of a sudden, the person that I had leaned on, the person that I could ask questions to, the person that I could be my real self and tell my whole heart to, the woman that helped me work through every bit of anger and depression that I went through, all of a sudden I didn't have her to ask. Didn't have her to hold on to anymore. I had her stories. I had the moments that I saw my mom be a saint. And all of a sudden I had to try to figure out life on my own. And it was insanely hard. But I wanted to write a song for my mom. I wanted to write a tribute for my mom because, like I said, I didn't want it to be sad. I wanted it to be a happy tribute to my mom because she never made me feel sad. She always made me feel so much joy and love, and even when I had no idea how I deserved it. But she loved cardinals, and she collected bells. That was her thing. She collected bells. We had 1 million bells with cardinals on them. And so when I was thinking about what I was going to write for my mom, I was like, it's got to be something to do with cardinals. Because my mom believed that when you see a cardinal, it's a loved one that you've lost, reminding you that they're still with you. But I'm sure anybody here, grandparents or mom or anybody, they say that. Every time I see a cardinal, I still think of my mom because of that. So I wrote this song for her. It's called Redbird Mama. I'll do it in the right key, I promise. Mama spent her whole life trying to pay her bills and live her life right. All the love she had, she gave away. Every kid in this county fed every lonely heart that needed a friend. She'd say a prayer for everyone she ever met. Redbird, redbird mama, fly my way. Remind me I'll see you again someday. Redbird, redbird mama, last words were fitting, she left me with the sweetest ending. The 3 words she said I already knew. Red bird, mama, fly my way. Remind me I'll see you again someday. Red bird, mama, coming home to stay. When these tired bones gave the old poor soul away. Red bird, mama, fly my way. Remind me I'll see you again someday. Red bird, mama, coming home to stay. When these tired bones give this old poor soul away. Mama spent her whole life trying to pay your bills and live her life right. All the love she had, she gave away. So like I said, I grew up in church, went to church every time the doors were open. My dad was an elder, my mom, Sunday school teacher. So Wednesday nights, Sunday nights, my dad was in a Southern Gospel quartet, so some nights we were at other people's churches, and that was my life growing up. And so when he passed away, you know, I told you I had a pretty bad anger problem, and I traced it back. I think the reason I was so mad is because at 9 years old, I didn't have a full grasp on who God actually was. I don't think you can when you're 9 years old, right? I don't think you can when you're 79, but you at least have a bigger sense of, you know, God is a more complex thing than just like a wizard up in the sky with levers and buttons, big white beard that pushes buttons and makes bad things happen in your life or good things. That's the way I kind of thought about it when I was 9 years old, right? So my 9-year-old brain, I think, had trouble with the fact that why would God, I always heard growing up, Jesus loves you. God's got a plan for your life. He's got a really great purpose plan for your life. And then all of a sudden at 9 years old, he pushed a button, my dad's gone, and that doesn't feel like it's so good anymore. And so what's a 9-year-old to do? You blame God. It's his fault. Just as easy as he pushed a button, that's easy for me to push a button back, right? But my mom helped me work through that, and she showed me that wasn't God's plan at all. God created something perfect. He created a world and earth that was perfect, and we brought sin into the world and kind of messed it up. And because of that, now there's pain and there's death. There's things that we have to go through that are way harder than he ever wanted for us. God's nature at his core is he's a good God. He wants good for you. And he created perfection for us. We messed it up. She helped me see that. So when she passed away, I had a whole different set of emotions. I all of a sudden wasn't mad at some wizard in the sky. I was talking to him about what am I going to do? I feel completely lost. My North Star is gone. And what he eventually had to tell me is, your mom was never your North Star, I was. Now you've got to search for me and find me. Now, I was in ministry at the time my mom passed away. I thought I had a lot of the answers already in my early 20s. And then all of a sudden, my mom's gone, my North Star's gone, and I realized that I had put my mom up here, And I had forgot somewhere along the way to put God above that. And I lost it. My life started to fall apart. Old habits started to creep back in. My anger started to creep back in. Not because I was mad at God, but because I was mad at me. Because I couldn't control what was going on in my life anymore. I knew it was heavy, but I couldn't put it down. And then I did the worst thing you can do. You start pushing things down and holding them in and not talking about them. Those people that God put in my life, I stopped telling them anything that I was going through. The circle that I had around me, I was isolating myself from them. And my ministry was going horrible. I was really struggling. I was mad at myself because I couldn't make things as good as I wanted to make them because I was too busy going home and I couldn't get it together. I'd go to work and then I'd go home and just sleep. And I was just slowly getting farther and farther away from God, farther and farther away from my friends, farther and farther away from my family, the people that God put in my path. Slowly but surely, I just found myself in a hole and I just had no idea how I was going to get out of it. And then a buddy called, a guy that I met at church camp years ago. His name's Evan Meyer. Anybody know Evan Meyer? He's the minister at Antioch Mills Christian Church right up here in Pendleton County. And he called me out of the blue. And he said, man, I don't know what you're doing now. He's like, I know you're working at a church. And he said, you're probably not even thinking about, leaving that job. But we're looking for a worship guy. And we know you sing and play. And I think it'd be really cool if maybe you come and work for us. And like I said, I was already working at a church. But what he didn't know is that I was drowning. And I knew something had to change because I wasn't in a place to be able to do ministry anymore. But that was also a problem because I wanted to go work for Evan, but I also wasn't in a place to do anybody any good. I needed ministry. I didn't need to be helping anybody at that point. And Evan was like, he's like, you think about it for a week and then I'll come, we'll have lunch and we'll talk. And he's like, we'll catch up. And he come, we have lunch and we sit down in Frisch's in Maysville. And I start telling him everything that's going on. And I said, honestly, Evan, when you called, I would love to take that job. It sounds like the perfect thing for me. I've been wanting to do the music thing for a while. But I'm in no place to do ministry. Actually, I'm thinking about quitting it altogether. Because I'm not cut out for it, especially right now. And he said, that's actually what you should not do. He said, why don't you come work for me, and here, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll let you play 5 songs on Sunday. You don't got to come to board meetings. You don't got to do anything but show up on Sunday and play songs, and you let the people at our church start to heal you. Just get around good folks that love you and let them help you a little bit. And you help us by playing, and maybe this thing can work out. And for the next 4 years, they changed my life. Because they just let me do the thing I was passionate about. They let me fall in love with the thing that I needed to fall in love with most. This ministry that I'd been doing for so long, I had forgotten that God was the best part of it. What God does in people's lives is the best part of it. What he does through broken people when he takes their story and uses it to help others is the most beautiful thing you'll ever witness in your life. I know that because it literally changed me from the inside out. When I couldn't hear God, he spoke to me through other people. He spoke to me through their stories, through their songs, through their photography, through their art, through them calling me on the phone and just asking me how I'm doing when no one else would. And I finally started to meet some people that I could actually pick up the phone and just call and say, I'm struggling today. God put those people in my path, and I thank God I had somebody around to help me listen to it. But when my mom died, I felt like I was a long way off. And in that ministry before I met Evan, I felt like I was a long way off from anything, any life worth having. I was ready to hang up a lot of things. And God sent me Evan. My motto used to be, I used to have this verse that I would repeat over and over and over again when I was going through hard things. Romans 12:12 says, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. And that verse got me through so much. Even when I didn't believe the words I was saying, I still said them. And then one day, this was just a couple years ago, I was going through, everything was going great. Started to rebuild my life. I was at a church where things were growing and we were happy, and I was doing ministry on a level that I'd never been able to do before. I felt like I was in my prime. Everything's going great, and then something, that's what happens in this life. Bad things happen, right? A lot of good things happen. There's a lot of mountaintops. There's a lot of valleys. We get through the valleys. We go to the mountaintop. We're going to keep doing that. That's consistently what happens in life. And I had kind of a valley that started to happen during that time. And I was reading the Prodigal Son. And the songwriter in me got stuck on these words. While I was a long way off. Or while he was a long way off, right? And I just literally applied it. It hit my heart, and it felt like it applied to me so long. Because I look back at my life and those times that I felt so removed from God, from my Creator, from my King, that I just felt lost. And that I'm supposed to have all the answers. I'm in ministry. Why am I feeling like I'm a long way off from God right now? And then you do the natural thing. You start to isolate a little bit. And you kind of become like the prodigal son. You leave for a bit. But what I love about that story is that his dad, when he comes home, his dad's not mad with him. He meets him right there in his brokenness, and he puts a robe around him. He puts shoes on his feet. He puts a ring on his finger. He has a big feast, and he reminds him that he's his son and he loves him. First thing he does. And I was like, that's the God that we serve. That's the God that makes something good out of something broken like me. And I remember what it felt to be a long way off. And I wrote this song. It's called Long Way Off. I hope you like it. Even when the sky falls down, even when I feel afraid, when I think I finally lost it all and try to run away, you come and chase me down. Your love will chase me down. God, I was a long way off. I was lost and you found me. Put a ring on my finger and shoes on my feet. It was a long way home, and I was blind, but now I'm seeing. You were always with me through it all, even when I was a long way off. When the world is turning upside down and I'm skipping over every stone, when this life has got me spun around and feeling like I'm all alone, you come and chase me down. Your love will chase me down. God, I was a long way off. I was lost and you found me. You put a ring on my finger and shoes on my feet. It was a long way home, and I was blind, but now I'm seeing. You're always with me through it all, even when I was a long way off. You found me, you changed me, you covered all my shame, and you loved me, and you saved me. I'll never be the same. And you found me, and you saved me. You covered all my shame, and you loved me, and you changed me. I'll never be the same. I'll never be the same. God, I was a long way off. I was lost and you found me. You put a ring on my finger and shoes on my feet. It was a long way home, and I was blind, but now I'm seeing. You were always with me through it all. You were always with me through it all. You were always with me through it all. Even when I was a long way off. God, I was a long way off. So I'm like 5 years into the best ministry of my life. I've been, I ended up being at that church for 10 years. And most of it was so good. And it was just going, it's going really well. My music career was starting to go like this, and the church was growing, and they were kind of doing this a little bit, and I kind of knew that, but everything was good. But the thing that I told you in that last story, the thing that kind of got me down was I had a guy join my worship team. He walked into church. I saw him the minute he walked in the first Sunday, because I don't know if, again, I told you I'm drawn to wild people. I can spot it. I immediately knew he was a musician because I've been playing music since I was a kid, and you just know it. There's a way that they look at you when you're playing that you can tell when somebody's a musician. But I also could see in his eyes that he was going through it. And he sat on the back, in the back on the last seat, and I was just like, Lord, somehow, when I get done with my last song, help me to make it back there before he slides out of here, because that's probably what he's going to try to do. I just felt it in my soul that I needed to catch him and talk to him, and I did. And he met me in the lobby, and we started talking, and 5-minute conversation turned into an hour conversation. Everybody's gone, and we're sitting in the lobby, and he's telling me a story, and he's in the middle of a fight. He was addicted to heroin. And he said, something told me to come to church today. Never really been a church guy. He was like, but I drove past and I saw cars here, and it just felt like I needed to turn in here and be here. And he was like, and I just love the music. And I said, you're a musician, right? And he was like, how'd you know? And I was like, I know, man. I could just tell the way you watched everything. And he ended up being a really amazing drummer. So we spent the next 3 years getting him clean from heroin. I went to court dates and helped him figure out. I was like, dude, I can't make them lessen your sentence, but I can go be there with you. If you go to jail, I'll be in the courtroom with you. I'll do whatever it takes. And I said, what I want from you, man, is I just want you to show up, come to our rehearsals, hang out with our worship team. I said, there's a lot of guys on this worship team, a lot of ladies on this worship team that have been through a lot of stuff in their life. They won't judge you, but they'll love you. They'll love you through it. And we'll do it together, shoulder to shoulder. And we got him clean. We got him on probation. Didn't have to do any jail time. He's a year clean. He's playing on the worship team every weekend. He loves it. He's starting to teach some of the kids in our church how to play the drums. And he comes to me one day and he says, man, he said, I just feel like my life's in such a different place. And I said, it is. I said, Jesus is doing an amazing work in you. And he said, I feel like I need to use my story for him somehow. I don't know what that looks like yet. I want to use my music and my drumming, and he's like, but I want it to be more than just the worship team. He's like, I don't know what that looks like. And I was like, well, let's talk about it, And we spent the next couple weeks talking about his vision and what he wanted to do. And I said, you have a powerful testimony. You did one of the most heroic things I've ever seen anybody do. I don't know if you've ever seen somebody try to break heroin addiction. It's one of the most difficult things to do on this planet, right? And I was like, you did that. Jesus showed up in your life and you did the work. To me, that's a hero. And I said, and now you can use all that pain from the beginning of your life, all the hard things that you went through, you can use that for others. You can shine in the darkness. You can teach somebody else that they can do the same thing. And we started to talk about what that looked like. And then one Saturday night, I'm sitting at home. I'm getting ready for, I'm getting stuff ready for the next day for worship. And, when ministers, most of the time when we get phone calls as ministers, it's always bad news. Any time of day. But when you get one at night, you know it's bad. Yeah. Hunter got killed in a car accident. Man, I thought I had it all figured out. Been in ministry for almost 25 years. Thought I'd seen it all, had all the answers. Me and God were good. We had had a lot of great conversations. I knew where he stood. He knows where I stand. And I'm going, we spent 3 years getting this kid clean, and then he's going to go out like that? Me and God had words that night. But again, I had to remind myself, I had to go back and remember my story and remember that God does good things in bad situations. He doesn't create bad situations. He makes good things out of bad situations. We live in a cursed world. These things are going to happen. Now what's he going to do? And I remember I played 2 songs and I told a little story about Hunter at his funeral. And here's what I didn't know. This is what I didn't know that God was doing. What I didn't know in all that time was that Hunter's dad was the head of one of the biggest biker gangs in Kentucky. They got chapters all over the United States, really. There's a lot that comes with that. And Hunter grew up in it. And so Hunter's funeral, in the parking lot, there are almost 200 bikes in the parking lot. All these chapters that come to pay respect. And we got to tell Hunter's story in front of his family, in front of his biker family. And you're talking rough around the edges guys, hard guys. A lot of those guys have done jail time. A lot of them never set foot through a church. Probably thought they'd set on fire if they came through the church. I had many of them tell me that. They heard Hunter's story. The next Sunday, Hunter's dad was at church. The next Sunday after that, Hunter's whole family was at church. Then you start to see a few of those bikers show up. Next thing you know, that biker gang is creating toy drives. They would do bike rides and collect toys. And next thing I know, they had tractor trailer loads full of toys for kids in Lee County that didn't get to have a Christmas. God did that. And Hunter didn't get to see what he did get to see it, but he might not have been around to see what his story can do. But it's still working. God's still working through Hunter even though he's not on this planet anymore. And Hunter did the work, and I know where he's sitting right now, and I know he's up there having a blast. And I wrote this song for Hunter. I kind of was thinking about what it would be like when Hunter got to heaven. And then I got to thinking about where he had come from that first Sunday where he was on that church pew or that back church seat, and where God had taken him and the journey that he had been on and the journey that he took us all on. And I wrote this song. It's called I'm Alive. Stumbled through the door, it was addicted. Barely take a seat, my life in pieces. No one to blame but me. Nothing but shame on me. The preacher spoke the word, it felt like good news. I couldn't help myself, I had to run to you. You took the blame for me. Oh, no more shame on me. Now I'm alive for the first time. Like my heart just started beating inside my chest. And it's all because of Jesus. my chains are gone, love has changed my death. I'm alive. Now I can't believe how much my life has changed. All the joy I feel at the sound of your name. Jesus, Jesus, I could shout it all day. No longer just a beggar, struggling to find bread. A sinner saved by grace, I've been born again. More than a debt paid. You picked me out of the grave. Now I'm alive for the first time. Like my heart just started beating inside my chest. And it's so because of Jesus. Well, my chains are gone, love has paid my debt. I'm alive for the first time. Like my heart just started beating inside my chest. And it's so because of Jesus. Well, my chains are gone, love has paid my debt. I'm alive. Thank you, God, for your mercy and your blessings in my life, for your patience and my family. Every day I get to open my eyes. Thank you, God, for your mercy and your blessings in my life, for your patience and my family. Every day I get to open my eyes. Now I'm alive for the first time. Like my heart just started beating inside my chest. And it's so because of Jesus. Well, my chains are gone, love has paid my debt. I'm alive for the first time. Like my heart just started beating inside my chest. And it's so because of Jesus. Well, my chains are gone, love has paid my debt. I'm alive. Thank God I'm alive. Thank you so much.
Well, I want to thank Matty again for coming and sharing that with us. And like I said, we've known each other for a long time. Met at Camp Northward 20 some years ago, and actually that's where he's headed right after this, to help and to serve. And just the person that you see up here is the person that he is 24/7, which is the thing I appreciate about him most. I just wanted to kind of wrap up what it is that we're here for this morning. And just kind of the running theme through all of it is that God's light shines through the cracks. See, when God made everything, it was perfect. It was as it was intended to be. And then when sin entered the world, it's like heaven and earth split in two. And God's been working ever since. It's not, we get this wrong sometimes, that we think we just grin and bear it on this part of our existence until we get to go to the sweet by and by. But he's been and he's continuing to work to reunite those two worlds. By the dad who's a mechanic, who sees the best in people, who shines that light of Jesus in their hearts and lives and gives them a chance when nobody else would. The mom that works at every school, that's just like that warm hug that feeds and loves and shows that. He's always bringing his kingdom here on earth. It's the first thing that he prayed about. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Let your kingdom come and your will be done on earth just as it is in heaven. I know that this has been a super different morning, and I joked with first service that I'm the only full-time minister on staff that's here this week. Everybody else is here, there, and everywhere. So it was kind of like a, when the cat's away, the mice will play situation. I got to change things up a little bit. But here's why I think it's fitting to do what we did this morning. We're in this series called Anti-Heroes of the Old Testament. And really what we're trying to do is to knock the shine off of this glossy picture that we have of these people in the Bible, thinking that you had to be perfect to be used and useful by God. But if you read through, it was messy, it's different, it's broken, but it was in the brokenness, it was through the cracks that God's light shines most. So today what we did was we kind of knocked some of the shine off of what accidentally happens when we come to church. Sometimes there's a beautiful place for celebration and goodness and lifting up God in big and beautiful ways and doing it in a way that's smooth and polished and what we're maybe used to, but God, I feel like this week, wanted to tell somebody or maybe somebodies that, hey, if you feel out of place in that, you don't have to pretend. He's building his kingdom here on earth. He's restoring what's been broken. And that only happens through Jesus. So we're going to take some moments as we kind of transition into our time of communion this morning to celebrate that truth. It's like the door that was opened that makes that path possible of being reunited and made right again with God. When the God who was perfect, put on skin and bones and flesh, and he moved into our neighborhood and he laid down his perfect life in the middle of the mess, not expecting perfection, expecting only faith and hope and trust in him. So we're going to take a few minutes I'm going to pray. We're going to share those elements. Hopefully you grabbed a piece of the bread and the cup on the way in, and then we'll finish up our services this morning. God, thank you that you are real, that you're here in the moments on stage in front of the lights and broadcast all across this region. But thanks that you're there when it's quiet. Thanks that you're there when it hurts, when we're scared, when things don't make sense. It was into that kind of a world that you've breathed life again when you opened the door. Thank you for paying the punishment that we deserve on the cross so that we could be made right with you again. God, thank you for being good even when we're not, for offering to take away our chains and our brokenness and our sin and our shame. Thank you for wrestling with us when we have doubts and questions, and that you welcome that and invite it. God, we love you. We give these moments of reflection to you, to honor you, and thank you for what you've done. In Jesus' name, amen.
For some reason, God has always put me in places where I might be able to speak into people's lives that are going through a lot of really hard things. And that's really hard for somebody like me sometimes because I'm a very empathetic person. I take on a lot of people's feelings and emotions, so I have to protect myself from that sometimes. But for whatever reason, God, He just sends me those people. And wherever I play music, I spend a lot of time playing music in bars. Some of the most profound conversations I've had about Jesus and God are sitting next to somebody pouring his heart out on a bar stool. And I always get the opportunity to, for whatever reason, these songs, most of the songs I've played here tonight are not what you would call, I guess, Christian songs, right? Like Tobacco Town is just about being a tobacco worker, right? But it's part of my story. And for whatever reason, those songs speak to people everywhere I go, and I get an opportunity to share my stories and my life with them. And in that, I get to share Jesus with them. And it's become a beautiful thing over the last 25 years that I wouldn't trade for anything. And not too long ago, I was talking to some friends who were also in the music business, never set foot in a church in their life, never planned to. But all of a sudden, they're faced like we all are, right? There's certain circumstances in life that make you question things. Your perspective tends to change when that thing that was unexpected hits you right between the eyes. And all of a sudden you start asking questions, what made this happen? Or why do I feel so alone in this? Is there somebody out in the universe? Is there a creator that I can hold on to, that I can lean on, even though I might not believe? You start to feel like there's this force for good that you're looking for, that you're longing for. And we find that in our darkest moments. I think as human beings, we feel that. And so I had a conversation, and I always started off the same way because I've always been a creator my whole life. I've always loved to write songs and stories, and I like to take photos, and I've always loved being around artistic people. For whatever reason, all that speaks to me. But the reason I know, for me, the reason I think that there is a God, I always start here. I always boil it down because I'm not a theologian. I'm not a preacher. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I think sometimes we make things harder than they need to be. So I'm going to boil things down because that's what songwriters do. We boil it down to the essence of what it is. And in my opinion, there's two paradigms in this world. There either is a creator or there isn't. And me being a songwriter, I can sit down to write a song, and I can put a piece of paper and a pen on the table, and I can take that pen and I can drop it on that piece of paper 40 bajillion, million, quadrillion times for the next billion years, and I don't believe a song will ever come from it. I just don't. When I go to the zoo and I see a zebra, I don't think that happened by accident. That was painted by an artist. When I think about how babies are born, when I think about how the most beautiful things in life can come from, like the Japanese, when something breaks, they fill the cracks with gold and they put it back together and they make a beautiful piece of art out of something broken. I always loved that. When I look at that, that can't come from nothing. That's what I think. All right, so there either is a creator or there isn't a creator. That's usually where I start with most folks, especially in the bars and being in the music scene. There's a whole lot of people that question God. We like to think we're smarter than we are. But I think when I boil it down, it comes down to that. Do I believe there's a creator or not? And once I believe there's a creator, then I have to start asking the questions, does that creator love me? Does he care about me? Does he have a plan for my life? And if he does, what do I do next? And I believe with all my heart that my creator loves me. And that's a question that I had to find the answer to the hard way. Because I don't think you can be a Christian if you don't know that answer. Do you really believe that God loves you? It's easy to believe that he loves you when everything's going great. But do you believe him when you get sick? When your grandma gets dementia? when a baby gets cancer? Do you believe God loves you? You have to wrestle with it, and you have to find the answer to that. And once you do, you learn it doesn't matter what the circumstance. He's going to make something amazing out of it. He's going to use whatever that story is to transform somebody's life or many people's lives or a whole community's lives or a whole state, a whole country. He used 12 men, 12 broken, rough around the edges men to change the entire world, and we're still sitting here talking about him because of it. So when I'm going through, I try to remember that the one thing that I've always been able to lean on when I boil things down to the essence of why it is I keep getting knocked down 99 times and getting up 100, it's because I have faith in my Creator that He loves me. I have faith in my King Jesus that He has a plan for my life and He wants to use me and He wants to change your life, my life. He's going to continue to change my life every second. He wants to make something good out of everything going wrong in your life right now. And whatever's going wrong in your life right now, and if there's not something going wrong, it will go wrong. And when it does, you have an opportunity to find your Creator, to find your King. And He's going to show up. He's going to put a robe around you and a ring on your finger, shoes on your feet. He's going to feed you. He's going to tell you He loves you and He missed you. And then He's going to blow your mind. And then something bad's going to happen again, and He's going to do it again. And that's what keeps me getting up every day and asking myself the same question that I used to ask myself when I started ministry. How do I build God's kingdom today? That's how I do that. By making people love Jesus and not me. But if I had one thing to leave you with today, it's this. I wrote a song not too long ago in Falmouth, Kentucky with my friend Noah Smith. I was going through some really hard things after COVID. Just dealing with some crazy grief stuff in my life. I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's a lot of grief going on in what I'm doing today. But this is how I've faced it, and I've learned to accept it, and how I've gotten through it. And it's always boiled down to my faith in God. And one day I was sitting out in the middle of nowhere in Falmouth, Kentucky at a songwriter retreat. We had gotten there about 2 hours early, and I'm sitting with my friend Noah, and he goes, "Let's write a song." He said, "What's on your heart?" And I said, "I really want to write a song about my faith. But I'm not feeling very vertical right now. Like, me and God are going through some stuff. I want to write a very real song about it, about my journey thus far in this life." And Noah, this is why he's my best friend, because he's wise beyond his years. But he looked at me and he said, "You know what? You know what faith is like?" I said, "No, what's that?" He said, "Faith's like an old chair. You don't know it's going to hold you up till you sit down in it and lean back. And from that moment on, my whole life motto changed. And I tattooed it on my hand so that I know the next time I'm going through the valley, because there's going to be a next time. That's life. The next time I'm going through a valley, I know exactly where I need to lean. I'll lean on my King, my Creator, my Jesus." And we sat down that day and we wrote this song, and I want to leave it with you today. If you're looking for Jesus today, this is a great opportunity to find Him. It's called Lean. Money in the bank and people you can thank for the things you have in your life. There's a time you hit your knees and cried out, "Please forgive me." And through the valley, there's a promised land. When you're taking on water You're building on sand, lay your hammer down at the carpenter's feet. Sometimes you gotta lean in and fall through the darkness, crash through the walls, stop running from it, hold on to something that you never seen, and lean. You can stand strong or crumble and fall, or you can weather the storm, 'cause the foundation's still holding on. Sometimes you gotta lean in and fall through the darkness, crash through the walls, stop running from it, hold on to something that you never seen. Lean. And I surrender, and I testify. I was lost in the shadows, now I'm found in the light. Sometimes you gotta lean in, fall through the darkness, crash through the walls, stop running from it, hold on to something that you never seen. Lean in, fall through the darkness, crash through the walls, stop running from it, hold on to something that you never seen. Lean. Oh, lean. Lean. Just lean. Thank you all so much for letting me tell my story and play some songs for you today.
Thanks a lot, Matty. Appreciate you sharing that. And thank you for being here with us this morning. Just before we leave, I wanted to remind you, if you haven't done this before, I want to invite you to stop by the Connection Cafe. We could pray for you, get you connected. If it's your first time here, we have a gift and just ways to help you take your next step. I'll also be up front here if you need to talk. But other than that, thanks for being here. Hope you have a great week, and we'll see you again next time.